Why does losing $50 on a trade feel like someone punched you in the stomach, but spending $50 on coffee this week felt like nothing? Here's what nobody tells you. Your stop loss isn't just taking money from your account. It's triggering a primal survival mechanism that has nothing to do with trading and everything to do with how your brain processes loss. The secret hidden in every stopped-out trade isn't about the money you lost. It's about a psychological pattern that Mark Douglas discovered after analyzing thousands of failed traders. What you're about to learn will completely rewire how you perceive risk, and more importantly, why the traders who feel nothing when they get stopped out aren't emotionless. They simply understand something about probability that your brain is actively fighting against right now. If you're building consistency in trading, the most powerful secret isn't in your strategy. It's in understanding why your stop loss hurts. This hidden pattern reveals why professional traders don't feel pain when losing, and how you can rewire your brain to think in probabilities, not outcomes. Here's the mystery that destroys more trading accounts than bad strategies ever could. Why do two traders, using the exact same system with the exact same stop loss, experience completely different emotional responses? One trader gets stopped out and immediately analyzes the next setup. The other gets stopped out and spirals into revenge trading, widening stops or freezing entirely. The conventional wisdom says it's about discipline or emotional control, but that's not the real answer. The real answer is buried in something Mark Douglas called the fundamental truths of trading, and most traders violate the first truth within seconds of placing their stop loss. The pattern reveals itself when you observe what happens in your mind the moment you click buy or sell. Most traders don't realize they've already made a critical psychological error before the market even moves. They've attached certainty to an uncertain event. They look at their technical setup, their indicators align, their strategy says take the trade, and unconsciously, their brain translates this into this trade should work. That single word should is where the pain begins. Because when your stop loss gets hit, it's not just money leaving your account. It's your brain receiving evidence that contradicts what it believed to be certain. Your prediction failed. Your analysis was wrong. And here's the devastating part. Your brain doesn't process this as the probability didn't play out this time. It processes it as I failed. The mystery is this. If trading is truly probabilistic, why does your brain insist on treating each trade like a prediction test? You either pass or fail. The secret Douglas uncovered after decades of trading psychology research is brutally simple. Your brain is hardwired for pattern recognition and survival, not probability thinking. When early humans saw a rustling bush, those who assumed probably a predator and ran survived more often than those who thought maybe it's just wind. Your ancestors, who treated every potential threat as certain, lived long enough to pass on their genes. You inherited this mechanism. The problem? This survival instinct is catastrophic for trading. Here's what happens neurologically. When you place a stop loss, your brain's amygdala, the emotional processing center that Denise Shull extensively studied, registers the potential loss before the trade even moves. It doesn't matter that you rationally understand probability. The amygdala doesn't think rationally. It sees the risk, flags it as a threat, and begins releasing cortisol. You're now biochemically primed to experience pain when that stop hits. But here's the revelation. The pain isn't about the money. Studies show people feel loss approximately 2.5 times more intensely than equivalent gains. This is loss aversion. And it's why a $50 loss hurts more than a $50 gain feels good. The pattern that professional traders understand and amateur traders miss is this. Each trade is meaningless. Not small, not just one trade. Meaningless. Douglas taught that a single trade outcome has zero predictive value about your system's edge. Think about a casino. Does the casino panic when someone wins $100 on roulette? Never. Why? Because they think in thousands of spins, not one spin. They know their edge plays out over series, not in singles. But when you get stopped out, your brain doesn't see this is one outcome in a series of hundreds. It sees I lost money right now. The present tense makes it personal. The singularity makes it painful. Here's the deeper layer. Your stop loss hurts because you're unconsciously viewing trading through a cause and effect lens instead of a probabilistic lens. In cause and effect thinking, good analysis should equal winning trade. Stop loss means analysis failure. But in probabilistic thinking, good analysis only tilts odds in your favor. The stop loss is simply the cost of finding out which side of the probability you landed on this time. The revelation is that your pain isn't coming from the market. It's coming from the fundamental mismatch between how your brain wants to process information, certainty seeking, and what trading actually is, probability distribution. Let me simplify this with an analogy that makes the concept crystal clear. Imagine you're an archer competing in a tournament. You've practiced for years. Your technique is solid. You draw your bow, aim at the bullseye, and release. The arrow flies and hits the outer ring. Now, two responses are possible. Response A: my technique failed. I'm terrible. I should quit archery. Response B: that's one shot. My technique gives me a 70% bullseye rate over 100 shots. This was one of the 30. Next arrow. Your stop loss is that outer ring arrow. The trader who feels crushing pain is using response A thinking. They're judging their entire trading ability on one outcome. The trader who feels minimal discomfort is using response B thinking. They're judging their edge on the statistical distribution, not the single event. Here's the critical insight. Professional traders don't have better emotional control. They have better probability frameworks. They've trained their brain to automatically think series instead of single. When their stop hits, their internal dialogue isn't "I lost" or "I was wrong." It's "that's one outcome in my distribution." If this is blowing your mind, stop right now and hit the subscribe button. Why? Because what comes next will blow up your view on why even disciplined traders sabotage their risk management. And if you don't subscribe, the algorithm will hide my next secrets from you. Now that you understand why stop losses hurt psychologically, here's the second mystery, and this one is even more insidious. Why do traders who understand probability still violate their stop loss rules? You've seen it. Maybe you've done it. You place a stop loss. The market moves against you, approaches your stop, and instead of letting it hit, you cancel it. Or you move it further away. Just give it a bit more room, you tell yourself. I don't want to get stopped out right before it reverses. You know this is wrong. You've read the books. You understand probability, but you do it anyway. The mystery here isn't ignorance. It's the gap between intellectual understanding and operational belief. Brett Steenbarger, who coached professional traders at hedge funds, discovered something fascinating. Traders can simultaneously hold two contradictory beliefs. Conscious belief: I understand my edge plays out over a series of trades. Unconscious belief: but this trade is different. I feel it. This is what Douglas called the absence of internal conflict resolution. Your rational mind knows probability. Your emotional mind is screaming, but what if you're wrong this time? The mystery deepens when you realize that the more convicted you feel about a trade, the harder it becomes to take the stop loss. High conviction creates emotional investment. Emotional investment creates ego attachment. Ego attachment makes the stop loss feel like personal failure rather than probability distribution. So the pattern reveals itself. The trades where you're most certain are often the trades where your risk management deteriorates most. Why? Because certainty is the enemy of probabilistic thinking. Here's the secret that changes everything. Your inability to honor stop losses isn't a discipline problem. It's a belief system problem. Mark Douglas identified 5 fundamental beliefs that consistent traders must internalize. Most traders never develop even one of them fully. The belief that destroys stop-loss discipline is this: I don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money. Read that again. Most traders claim they understand probability, but their actions reveal they're trying to be right about each trade. Being right feels good. It validates your analysis, your intelligence, your trading identity. But trading isn't about being right. It's about managing probabilities and letting your edge play out. Here's what happens when you truly internalize probabilistic thinking. The stop loss transforms from a failure signal into a data point. Think about this strategically. The way Robert Greene analyzes power dynamics. In any probabilistic system, you must have losers to identify the winners. The casino must pay out winners to collect from losers. The insurance company must pay claims to collect premiums. You must take stop losses to capture your winners. The stop loss isn't the cost of being wrong. It's the cost of finding your winners. This reframe is neurologically powerful because it removes the moral judgment your brain attaches to losing. Brett Steenbarger's research with professional traders revealed a critical pattern. Elite traders have rituals that separate trade execution from outcome. They focus intensely on execution quality. Did I follow my rules, wait for my setup, size correctly, place my stop at the predetermined level? They detach almost entirely from outcome. Whether this specific trade wins or loses is irrelevant to their performance assessment. Amateur traders do the opposite. They barely focus on execution. They'll take marginal setups, size inconsistently, adjust stops emotionally, but obsess over outcomes. Every losing trade feels personal. The revelation is that your stop loss hurts because you're judging the wrong variable. You're judging outcome, which you can't control, instead of execution, which you can control. This creates pain because you're making your self-worth dependent on randomness. Here's the deeper layer. Denise Shull's work on trader neuroscience shows that emotional pain and physical pain activate the same brain regions. When your stop loss hits, your anterior cingulate cortex lights up identically to physical injury. But here's the key. This only happens when you perceive the stop loss as rejection or failure. When you perceive it as expected variance within a distribution, the pain response diminishes dramatically. Professional traders have literally rewired their neural pathways through repeated exposure and cognitive reframing. Here's the second analogy to lock this in. Imagine you own a restaurant. You buy ingredients every morning. Some days the fish you bought goes bad before you can serve it. You throw it away and take the loss. Do you have an emotional breakdown? Do you question your entire restaurant concept? No, because you understand that spoilage is built into the restaurant business model. The profit from the meals you sell successfully more than covers the cost of occasional spoilage. You've accepted spoilage as a cost of doing business. Your stop losses are spoilage. They're the cost of doing business in trading. The trader who moves their stop loss is like a restaurant owner who refuses to throw away bad fish and serves it anyway. Maybe the customers won't notice. Maybe it's still good. This isn't optimism, it's denial. It's refusing to accept the fundamental nature of the business you're in. The professional trader looks at a stopped-out trade the same way a restaurant owner looks at spoiled fish. That's within expected variance. Next, no drama. No identity crisis, just operational acceptance that in any probabilistic business, some inputs won't convert to profitable outputs. If you're still watching, you are different from most people. Prove it, leave your like now and subscribe, because people like you deserve to know all the secrets I'll reveal in the next videos. Now we arrive at the final and most counterintuitive mystery. Why do traders who use wider stop losses often lose more money than traders who use tight stops? This seems to contradict everything we've discussed. If stop losses cause pain, shouldn't wider stops that get hit less frequently reduce that pain? The data reveals the opposite. Traders who habitually use wide stops often experience death by 1,000 cuts, or more accurately, death by massive single cuts. They avoid the frequent small pain of tight stops, but expose themselves to infrequent catastrophic pain of enormous losses. The mystery is this: if the pain of stop losses is the problem, why does avoiding that pain lead to worse outcomes? The pattern emerges when you examine the psychology behind stop loss placement. Mark Douglas observed that most traders don't place stops based on market structure or volatility analysis. They place stops based on pain tolerance. They ask themselves, how much can I afford to lose without feeling terrible? This is backwards. This is letting your emotional comfort zone dictate your risk management instead of letting market structure dictate your risk management. But here's where it gets complex. Some traders go the opposite direction. They use extremely tight stops, not because their strategy demands it, but because tight stops feel safer. They can lose frequently, but keep losses small, which creates the illusion of control. Both approaches, stops too wide and stops too tight, stem from the same psychological error, managing feelings instead of managing probability. The deepest layer of this mystery connects to something Robert Greene explores extensively: the illusion of control. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with randomness. We create narratives to explain random events. We see patterns in noise. When it comes to stop losses, this manifests as the belief that we can outsmart the randomness by being clever about stop placement. I'll put my stop just beyond where most traders put theirs so I won't get hunted. I'll use a mental stop instead of a hard stop, so I have flexibility. These aren't strategies. These are psychological defense mechanisms against accepting uncertainty. Here's the final secret that connects everything. The pain of your stop loss is directly proportional to the gap between your expectations and reality. The wider that gap, the more pain you experience. Professional traders minimize this gap, not by controlling the market, but by controlling their expectations. Let me reveal exactly how they do this. Mark Douglas's most profound insight was about probability-based thinking versus outcome-based thinking. Most traders are outcome-based. They enter a trade expecting it to work. And when it doesn't, reality violates their expectation. Pain. Professional traders are probability-based. They enter a trade accepting that this specific outcome is unknowable, and that their only certainty is playing their edge over a series. When the stop hits, reality matches their expectation. No gap, minimal pain. This isn't semantics. This is a fundamentally different relationship with uncertainty. Here's how this applies to stop-loss placement. The professional trader places their stop based on invalidation points, the price level where their trade thesis is no longer valid. If they're buying a breakout above resistance, their stop goes below that resistance, not because it feels comfortable, but because price below resistance means the breakout failed, and their reason for being in the trade no longer exists. The amateur trader places their stop based on acceptable loss amount. I'm willing to lose $50 on this trade. This approach disconnects stop placement from market structure. You're imposing your personal comfort zone onto market reality, instead of adapting to what the market is telling you. Denise Schull's neuroscience research revealed something crucial. Anticipatory anxiety, worrying about a stop loss before it hits, often creates more stress than the actual event, the stop hitting. Traders torture themselves with what-if scenarios. What if it hits my stop and then reverses? What if I'm stopped out right at the low? This anticipatory anxiety is evidence that you're still operating in outcome-based thinking. You're attached to this trade's outcome. The solution isn't to eliminate the anxiety. That's impossible. The solution is to redirect your attention from outcome to process. Ask yourself, did I wait for my setup? Is my stop at the technical invalidation point? Is my position size within my risk parameters? If yes to all, you've done your job. The outcome is now noise. Here's the final revelation that ties all three cases together. Your stop loss doesn't hurt because you're losing money. It hurts because you're losing your story. Every trade comes with a narrative. I identified this pattern. I analyzed this setup. I predicted this move. When your stop hits, that narrative collapses. Your prediction was wrong. Your analysis missed something. And here's what nobody tells you. This is exactly as it should be. Trading isn't about creating accurate narratives. It's about managing the probability distribution of all possible narratives. The professional trader doesn't create stories about individual trades. They create systems for managing series of trades. Their identity isn't wrapped up in being right about trade 47. Their identity is wrapped up in executing their process consistently. Cross trades 1 through 1000. Here's the final analogy that makes everything clear. Imagine you're a meteorologist. You forecast a 70% chance of rain tomorrow. Tomorrow comes and it doesn't rain. Are you wrong? No, your forecast was 70%, which means 30% of the time it won't rain. This was one of those 30% outcomes. Your forecast was accurate in probabilistic terms, even though the specific outcome didn't match the higher probability. This is exactly how professional traders think about stop losses. Your trading strategy might have a 60% win rate. That means 4 out of every 10 trades will hit your stop loss. Not might, will, this isn't failure. This is your distribution. When trade number 3 hits your stop, you're not experiencing failure. You're experiencing expected variance within your probability distribution. The amateur trader treats every stop loss like the weather forecast was wrong. The professional trader understands they're playing a probability game where losses are mathematically required components of the system. Here's the transformation. When you fully internalize this, stop losses stop feeling like failures and start feeling like expected costs. Just like the restaurant owner expecting some spoilage, Just like the casino expecting some jackpot payouts, you expect some stop losses. They're built into the model. They're part of your edge, not evidence against it. Let's connect all three revelations. Your stop loss hurts because your brain treats trading like a series of pass-fail tests instead of a probability distribution. The solution isn't to avoid stop losses or widen them based on comfort. It's to fundamentally rewire your relationship with uncertainty. Case 1 taught you that pain comes from the certainty bias your brain imposes on uncertain events. Case 2 revealed that honoring stops requires process focus rather than outcome focus. Case 3 showed you that stops are expected variance, not prediction failures. The transformation happens when you stop asking, "Was I right?" and start asking, "Did I execute my edge?" This is the secret professional traders live by, and it's what separates consistent profitability from emotional chaos. If these secrets blew your mind, you need to see my next videos, but only if you hit the bell icon. Otherwise, you'll lose the most powerful secrets in history. What is your opinion on the ideas presented in this content? Leave it in the comments. Send this news to that friend of yours who has a keen perception. This content is strictly educational and analytical and does not constitute financial advice or investment recommendations.